Hello, and welcome to the Profit Partner, where we help to grow six-figure businesses in 12 months or less. My name is Cherie, and I am the Profit Partner. Now, we know in every business, one thing that we need, one thing that's fundamental, is a good business plan. And sometimes a business plan will just be a few pages. Other times it needs to be quite a dissertation. Maybe if you're going for funding or if you're going for angel investing, capital, as far as banks are concerned. So one of the things that we wanted to do was to bring an expert to you to talk about how to create an effective business plan, a practical business plan, something that you can use in order to grow your business, whether it's six figures, seven figures, billions of dollars. The choice is up to you. So we have Larry Fox here of the Values Group, who's going to tell us how to put an effective business plan together. Welcome, Larry.
Hi, thanks for having me.
So tell us a little bit about yourself.
Previously, I ran companies, and there I learned the common denominator for all successful business leaders was the development of a business plan. Whether it was for the overall business or project by project, the more planning you put in advance, the more proactive the leadership, the more successful the project.
Great. So tell us a little bit about maybe a couple of the companies that you worked with that used your business plans and how successful they've been.
We created an internet online learning and training company long before email was prevalent. We provided accredited courses and needed a business plan to develop how we would market such a crazy idea as learning over the internet. Mm-hmm. That proved successful. Then we sold that company and moved over all of the people who had been with me, became investors, and a company where we financed high technology equipment. There we needed to look at each project as a discrete business unit and developed our business plans, first for my boards to approve, and then if we were to engage in financing, which we did frequently with lease financing, the lending institutions would demand a business plan. Mm-hmm. That's where I learned to develop business plans, answering all lending institutions' due diligence questions. And I learned the wisdom of that because we didn't have a single project that was not successful.
Wow, that is impressive. So tell us a little bit about creating a business plan if you don't need any financing, let's say you're just a service company, versus if you are going for financing through a bank or through angel investing or venture capital. Are they different?
The first thing you have to understand is something always triggers a person's head to say, I need a business plan. Mm-hmm. In this era, it's predominantly, I need capital, whether that's small investors, family and friends, the venture capitalist, or lending institution. What I try to tell people is it's great that you are going to do your business plan, but the business plan should be more than simply an instrument that you hand over to someone to say, read this and you'll see how good I am. Mm-hmm. It should be an on-demand management tool. It should be a way of ensuring that the leadership is always proactive. I try to tell people when I do public speaking, I'll show a picture of a telephone and ask people in the audience, what does this mean? And of course no one knows. And I will say it means that answering the telephone is valueless. A machine can do that. What's important is what are you going to say after you've answered the telephone? Mm-hmm. And that's what we're doing with a business plan. As you've learned from me in our discussions, a good business plan is divided into three sections.
Right.
The first discusses your business or marketplace opportunity. Mm-hmm. That's how you see what you can do. What is the potential? Who are your competitors? And you make then the distinction, can this team take advantage of that business opportunity? We look at competitors again. We look at a marketing plan. So frequently people will come in and tell me they're going to network or they're going to advertise. And I try to say, well, your business plan has to tell me how you're going to network or market in order to maximize the opportunity that we've laid out.
Tell us a little bit more about that. No, you're fine. So give us an example. We have a bookkeeping company. My mom actually owns a bookkeeping company. And if she were to say to you, I'm going to network in order to bring clients in, and you were to ask her to delve down deeper to explain that, what would you suggest her, what kinds of questions would you ask for her to think about as she's doing that?
The first thing I would ask her, I would say, Carolyn, when you go to what you call
Carolyn's my mom's name.
Carolyn does QuickBooks. When you go to a networking function, are you there under the false assumption that your objective is to get clients? What your objective should be, it's always wonderful if you catch a client or two, is to get other people to refer folks to you who need a damn good bookkeeper.
So in other words, as a service company, our goal, the opportunity of going to these networking events is to find referral partners.
Exactly.
Wow, great. Give us another example, if you would. We're going to tap that brain of yours today.
Okay. Well, in her case, I'd like to go back to the opportunity. She, like everyone, believes that because she provides better services, opportunity will come to her door. That's a build it and they will come philosophy, and it's almost guaranteed for failure. I would rather see her discover how many people, for example, in her catchment area where she has her location are going to the H&R Blocks, for example, for tax. I'd like to find out how many of the small businessmen are using other bookkeepers, how many are using accountants, because she provides a superior service. The first thing she has to know is to whom she's going to offer her services.
Right.
Now we know in her case, for example, how good she is because she started a business and it's successful.
Yes.
So for her, the business plan and the opportunity is to identify how to expand the clientele base where she currently is, and also how to make herself, if you will, a franchise, not necessarily selling franchises, but behaving as if she were a franchise, showing again how many people we can get through the door.
Right. So let's talk a little bit more about that, because I know where you're headed with this, about creating a franchise-like atmosphere in our businesses. We're familiar, if you haven't read, there's a man by the name of Michael Gerber who wrote a book called The E-Myth, and E-Myth stands for entrepreneurial myth, where he talks about systems in a business, and I think that that's where you're headed, right? Like, what are the systems in your business and the way that you operate that also helps you create a continuously provide superior products and services?
It's a combination of that, and every single one of us talk to ourselves. We talk with lightning speed.
I don't talk to myself.
Oh, of course you do, mentally, the left lobe to the right lobe. And that happens so fast that we miss steps.
Okay.
If I can force you to write down your goal, to write down how you're operating or how you wish to operate, you'll see on paper the missing steps. And those are the missing steps if you don't have a business plan that will mean either, one, you're going to be a failure, or two, even if you're a success, why you're not going to be as successful as you should be.
Right.
The more you plan up front, the more successful you are later. There's no such thing as a business plan that covers everything going, but the more you've thought about it, the more comparable experiences you've thought about, the more likely you can solve problems, solve them quickly. One of the biggest issues that I see for small businesses, if they don't have a business plan, is when they hit a problem, they want to throw money at it. And that's not necessarily the answer. I explain whether the consultant is me, or an attorney, an accountant, a bookkeeper. Your consultants are only as good as you are.
Right.
If you don't give them direction, then they'll go all over the place,
Right.
charge for the time, and not give you very much, not because they were evil, but because you didn't show them the target.
Right. So basically being clear about our goal as business keepers is essential. If there's a problem in our business, clearly identifying what that problem is and working through that. And as you're even saying, planning a little bit more.
It's as simple as providing job descriptions for the people that you have that parallels what you think your objective or mission is. I can't tell you how many CEOs I've talked with that will tell me, well, I told them what to do, and they thought they had done such a good job, and it was awful. And I'll say, did you ever put it in writing? And the answer is inevitably, well, I told them. Well, but they didn't read that. They couldn't see it, and you didn't see what it is you might have told them isn't crystal clear.
Right. So you did an excellent segue into the second philosophy you have as far as business plans are concerned, which is team, or the second section, I should say, which is team. So tell us a little bit more about the team, how to assemble a team.
First, we've got an opportunity behind us. We've now identified that there is a marketplace or business capability of being successful, but you have to capitalize on that, and you start with the CEO. Whether through experience or through the ability to hire people, you have to start to develop and show that you know how to capture that market share. That's part of your business plan. That's part of your networking plan. And interestingly enough, the third section that you mentioned a few minutes ago, the third section of a business is the pro forma, or the economic model.
Right.
When you make projections for revenue, everyone knows they're projections. They're not real until you've done it. But one thing you can be exactly on target, and that's your expenses.
Okay.
If you don't know the cost of everything you're going to incur, then you're not a good leader. You're not going to be able to take advantage of that market opportunity. And so we begin to force everyone to look, to analyze, to think about their assumptions even. I hear people say, well, we assumed we'd capture this percentage of the market. Why did you assume that? Because the weather was warm that day? Did you sit down and think out what the competition is, for example? Did you think out how many people there are that you can get? And who were you hiring to get them? Were you, in one particular case, for example, when I ran a company, we would find radiologists who would tell us that they could market very, very technical equipment, and they were using their standard marketing person. They were using someone to tell other people or other doctors about x-rays, a very, very simple machine to operate. That human being might be wonderful, but was not prepared to talk to other doctors about technology such as a PET camera.
Right.
Entirely different salesperson.
Right. So you kind of bounced around to the three different, I got that, to the three different, so it sounds like everything really is contingent on the other section. We have the three sections here, which are the opportunity, the team, and the financing, or the economic model, and it seems like everything is contingent on the other sections. So where do we start? You know.
You're exactly correct. You do start writing up the opportunity, and you will always discover when you're doing that, whether it's research on the internet, whether it's polling, whether it's just we've been in business for 10 years and here's what we've got, that as you start to write that out, changes occur. When you move on to the team, you'll discover, my goodness, the team we've got can't do some of the things that we had thought were the opportunity. That may be bad, it may be good. You may have found something more important, more critical, more capable of selling or marketing than you had originally thought. So you begin to change. As you move to the pro forma and you see the numbers, they don't work. Did they not work because we didn't project enough sales? Or, for example, there aren't enough sales. I would say that 20% of the people who come to me and talk about a startup, I have to advise them that they should stay in the job that they've got.
Okay, and is that because there's not enough of a marketplace?
There's
or-
not enough of the marketplace usually, or they don't have the experience.
But you can hire for the experience, right? Hire a team?
You can hire, but a team, just as I said, a consultant has to be directed. Employees, no matter how highly paid, have to be directed.
Okay, okay. Well, let's go back to team and the selection of a team. How do we select a team?
How do we select a team? First of all, obviously we can do the tried and true. We can get references. We can get recommendations about team members. But this goes back to how you interview that team to determine whether that person, assuming everyone is competent now that you're talking with, can they do the job? Do they disagree with the policy or objectives that you have? Will they follow your lead? Will they
Right.
fit? How will they treat the people below them? Can they continually create the team? If you have conflict among the members of your team, then you're doomed to failure again because they're spending the time being non-productive.
Right. Do they also have to buy into the vision of the opportunity and the financing sections? If you're talking to, let's say, a senior manager that you want to bring in, do you show them these sections in order to say, can you manage to this opportunity?
Yes, I know that some executives like to keep people in the dark. That's a big mistake. If you're trying to build teamwork, you need to be open. You need to hear what people have to say. You need to bring them on board. You need to have them committed. People don't make commitments in a dark room. They want the light on. Turn the light on so they can make the commitment.
Okay. Okay, great. So let's talk a little bit about the economic section of our business plan, which is the final section. What are some of the things that should go into that section?
Well, first, before we talk about what should go into it, may we talk about what should be in it when we're all done?
Sure.
Okay. The first thing, in today's environment where banks, for example, are changing their MO, they're looking within the community and talking about their fiduciary obligations to their constituents. So the first thing we want to look at when our pro forma is done is, does the executive make an income? Does he or she have a livelihood? Why? If you can't buy groceries, you won't pay back a loan. So the first thing is an income. Second, you need to see that there is sufficient cash flow to repay a debt if you borrowed funds, or to provide investors with their return on investment. Third, if it's your capital, you need a return on investment. If you, when you're all done, don't have those three factors covered, then you shouldn't be in business.
Right. So banks are really looking at, personally, do you have the personal finances to actually establish this company and keep it afloat and keep groceries on the table for your kids or for yourself even?
Correct.
Right. So what else should we have in the finance section?
We should lay out in that financing section every single assumption that we're making in terms of economics, whether those are assumptions we need 1 employee or 50 employees. We should lay out our assumption after we've established the business opportunity, we're going to capture X or Y or 10% of that opportunity. And we've shown how in marketing that's a rational or reasonable belief, so that as we project our revenues, we can apply that against, as I said, 10 employees, for example,
Right.
our rental space. that we brought every single real factor. So many times I hear people say, or they'll come to me, well, we've done our numbers, and I will say, great, what's your rent? They'll say, 20 bucks a square foot. I'll say, well, and that's it? Yes. Well, no, that's not it. What happened to the utilities? What happened to the pass-through cost? What happened to the inflation that's built into a lease? So we force every expense that we know is there so that our numbers jump out, so that if someone is loaning us money, they think we're creditable.
Right, right. So they don't necessarily, a trained eye would see holes if you just said my rent is $20 a square foot.
Exactly.
Right. So then they think that, okay, well, there must be problems with other facets of this plan because they didn't have this simple information in the pro forma.
And you go on to show you how minute you must get this down to. When you start a business, no one just starts at a run. There's always a build-up period so that a good pro forma shows during your operations when you're going to add the people, at what juncture, at what volume section, at what number of hours do we stop paying overtime and hire the one person, that added one person. Then a risk analyst says, gosh, this person knows how to run a business.
Right. And I imagine that talking through all of that as we're creating our business plans, it really causes us to think about what we're actually going to do in those what-if scenarios.
It causes us to think, and it causes us to remain proactive managers. I get called in frequently for what we call turnaround situations, where a company has been successful, its earnings plateaued, and now they're going south. Inevitably, I will always discover that senior management stopped being proactive and became reactive in their management. And now we're back to my example of the telephone. All they wanted to do was answer the telephone. They forgot what they were going to say after they answered the phone.
Great. So does it make sense after we've done this business plan, and let's say that we are fortunate enough to get the capital that we're looking for, does it make sense to periodically review the plan and update it? And if so, how often should we be doing that?
You should update your business plan every quarter. At a minimum, it should be done every year. I tell people if your business is going to grow, your last year is the foundation for a new floor.
Okay. And tell us the greatest success story that you've had in your own consulting business, because we know that you have the Values Group, and I love the name of that company. What's the greatest success story you've had as far as creating business plans?
Greatest success story, simply because it was numbers. A client came to me. He had been seeking $1 million loan. He had applied to 3 banks and got a turn down from all 3 banks. By the time I had finished with his business plan, all 3 banks reversed themselves and offered him the money that he was seeking.
Wow. So, I mean, that's an amazing story. Obviously, you were worth your weight in gold and silver and platinum and everything else, right?
Oh, I hope so. You forgot diamonds.
And diamonds too, yes. And how long did that process take, just out of curiosity? If someone were to come to you, how long does it take for you to help us put our business plans together?
Business plans are not painting by numbers. They're original art. So just like you had opened and said some business plans are a few pages, some are an encyclopedia, if you will. In the case of the turnaround that I told you of the 3 banks, we had that done in a month's time.
Wow, fantastic. So that wasn't very long at all.
That one wasn't very long at all. But I've worked on a business plan for as long as 6 months.
Wow. Well, we don't want to scare anybody. So don't think you necessarily have to work on a business plan for 6 months.
No.
Okay, final question is, tell us a little bit about how we can get in touch with you. Do you have a phone number or email address that we can reach out to you?
Sure. The office phone number is 703 680 7207. The cell is 703
He's putting his cell on national TV.
216 3592. I answer all my calls myself, by the way.
Great.
Email is easy, larryfox@comcast.net.
Great. Thank you so much. And we're just going to wrap up here to say that business plans are essential to our success. As our guest Larry has said today, the more we plan, the more successful that we'll be. Because the truth is, a lot of times we don't plan to fail, we just fail to plan. So for us to actually beat the odds and have a successful business, be that 5% that actually makes it, we have to have a plan. Thank you very much. Again, my name is Cherie, also known as the Profit Partner, where we help to grow six-figure businesses in 12 months or less. Thank you, and have a prosperous day.